Welcome to the Borderless Podcast, your guide to traveling, investing, and living beyond borders, where we talk about living the life that you want to live, where you want to live it. From beautiful San Miguel de Allende, smack in the middle of Mexico, with your hosts, Jonathan Lockwood and James Guzman.
Welcome to the Borderless Podcast, traveling, investing, and living beyond borders. What is this podcast? Well, we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about having location-independent businesses. We talk about people wanting to live a more international life, having more self-reliance. We talk basically about living beyond your borders, and there are different types of borders. We try to address all of them. I'm Jonathan Lockwood here with James Guzman. Hey, James.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Well, it's a different podcast today because we don't have actually any guest.
That's right. Yeah, that's all right. You know, we've had one where you've interviewed me,
right?
And then I've had one where I interviewed you. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to do another one with just you and me, but I think we've got a lot to talk about that we don't necessarily need to have a kind of a interview, a type of structure.
You know, it's funny because you think the interviewee is necessary, but the reality is, in a sense, it's kind of a crutch. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, oh, you fall into almost a formula.
Right.
And this is probably good to do something like this every now and then,
mm-hmm.
you know?
I kind of feel like a lot of the interview shows also, I don't know, it's kind of like you ask a question and then the person just kind of has this monologue, and especially when it's over Skype or something like that, it's not really a natural conversation. So.
Right. That's true. That does happen. That's why it's important to kind of vet these people to the best of your ability. And as you ask them questions, try your hardest to fall out of the formula, and hopefully they do too, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, we are here in beautiful San Miguel de Allende, and a lot of other people are too, huh?
Yeah. There's been a lot of people coming down lately. Let's see, it's Tour de Meester, right?
Yeah, Tour de Meester, I believe he pronounces it. Mm-hmm. Tour is a great guy. At some point, hopefully we can get him on the podcast. Mm-hmm. He is a Belgian guy, early 30s. I met him when I was in Santiago, Chile a couple of years ago. He's a really great guy, an expert on the subject of Bitcoin, and he is, anyway, he's got some exciting stuff coming up in the future. Turns out he just up and moved here.
Yep.
And that's great. And then we have somebody else moving here soon, right?
Yeah. Callan Diggs, he was one of our former podcast guests. He's planning to come down, I guess, the next 2 months and actually move to Querétaro, I believe. I guess he's kind of deciding, but Querétaro's only 30 minutes away. So
okay.
Somewhere around here.
I didn't realize it was going to be Querétaro. But anyway, that's cool. So yeah, Callan's a great guy, and we've got some new neighbors here.
We do, yeah.
In the compound, in the Borderless compound.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. He's 35 years old, mm-hmm. and he's originally from Long Island. She's originally from Acapulco. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting. And he's a day trader.
Yeah.
And he does it on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Doesn't that crack you up?
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, we were over there looking, where's your computer, earlier. And no, he's right on his phone, but all day he's just trading stocks on his phone. So,
in fact, he doesn't even have a computer.
Doesn't even have a computer.
I get the idea that it might be easier to use your iPhone, but he doesn't even have a computer.
Yeah.
And when I said that to him, I said, dude, you don't even have a computer and you're a day trader? He looked at me, threw up his hands and said, younger generations, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that it's amazing how much people are using their smartphones. It seems like a lot of the technology is gone. I mean, not really heavy stuff like making videos and other things like that. You need something a little bit more powerful. But just for like communication purposes, it seems like a lot of stuff is going towards the smartphone. I was looking at this article earlier today. Speaking of smartphones, I think that 70% it was 1 out of 5 people that are on their smartphones are on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And it was just talking about how Facebook alone is eating up all the internet market. It's amazing. It's like 50% of the people that are on the internet only get their news through Facebook.
I know.
Yeah. And they're trying to position themselves as the only portal that people go to access the internet. And that's where, if you look at it, that's how a lot of people use it already. So
yeah,
it's amazing when you think about where that stuff might go.
Yeah, I get that. Very interesting. Speaking of Facebook, I think we both got a friend request earlier today from a lovely young lady who is in Ireland now, but is Italian. And she's only lived there for 6 months. And she found our podcast through listening to, she told me through listening to the Nomad Capitalist, Andrew Henderson's podcast, and somehow found us. And anyway, she was telling us she liked the podcast so much. And she said, one thing is that she'd like to hear a little bit more about Europe, because there are a lot of people in Europe, specifically, she's explaining to me, in Italy, who are trying to escape too. And one of the things, first of all, I wanted to say this, and I appreciated her comment in this regard. Maybe other people look at it this way. She said that our podcast, as opposed to many of the other ones that she listens to, seems less like an infomercial. And it could be because we actually don't have anything to sell. Right. Not that we're trying to back off that. But not that there aren't things like that in the works. But anyway, so I appreciated that. And I think that James, you and I both look at this project this way. I don't have any problem with capitalism. I love capitalism. I run a business. And I don't even have a problem with those people who are a little more front and center with selling things, if that's the way they want to do it and they found that they do better that way. But it's just not right for me. It just comes across a little, I don't know what the word is.
Well, different people, they take different strategies and what they want to do. But what I'd really like to do with the podcast and the blog and everything is just kind of create a group. I think that we all need to support each other, especially when we're trying to go on a limb and go to different, countries, or get into different markets, or work for ourselves. We need people that have done that before and that can help us out. So I hope that that's the type of thing that we can create here, especially, with the group as well. I'd like to, recommend everybody, if they're not on the Facebook group, go ahead and join it. I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, because it has all of your information. A lot of people don't like that, but that's where it is for now. Maybe I'll switch it over and have some sort of a forum, but I definitely want to keep that open to everybody to keep the discussion going. So
yeah. So it was interesting to me that this young Italian girl who has moved to Ireland wanted to talk about Europe a little bit. And we say that all the time. We get into these conversations and we say, so what would you recommend for people who want to expatriate? And I'm like, well, most of us are in the United States, but, they could be from Europe or other areas. So we would like to talk just for a minute here. I wanted to bring up, she said, look, she's from Italy, and she sent me an article, which I have now on Google Translate, so that, and she explained the statistics to me too. In 2013, 82,000 Italians left Italy, and that was almost 21% more than the year before. They are pouring out, and I didn't understand where she was coming from. She did tell me that the top 5 countries that they're moving to: number 1, the UK; number 2, Germany; number 3, Switzerland; 4, France; 5, the United States. And my main thing was, okay, well, why? Why are they moving there? And she said, it's impossible to run a business here with the taxation and the regulation and everything. She explained to me that in order to have a business there, to employ a person, for every €1 you have to pay them, you have to pay 2.2 euros in taxes. And, the debt to GDP ratios at 133%. It's a time bomb. People are pouring out of there, especially the younger ones, age 25 to 40 in particular. Yeah. Italy is second to only Japan, I think, in the world for how old their population is at this point. And so it's a great concern to them. And I said, wow, this sounds familiar. I wonder why. I understand they're moving to other better places of more opportunity in Europe, but maybe they ought to look at moving out of Europe. Yeah,
it might have something to do with the passport situation.
Yeah, that's absolute good point. Yeah.
It's a lot easier for them to do that. But yeah, I was in Madrid for about 4 years. I went to university there, and it's really a shame because I actually like a lot the Southern European countries, the culture, the food, all this stuff. It's a lot of fun, but the government is just way out of control, and the youth unemployment, or not even youth, but people under 30 is atrocious, and just forget about it. The education system, especially higher education, is so removed from the market. They're learning all these things that you actually can't make money doing. It's the only thing you can do is go work for a big corporation, and so anyways, I wouldn't mind living somewhere in Southern Europe, but only if I had a lot of money, or had a location independent business, or just for some reason I didn't have to worry about making money where I was, because that's just it's really hard.
Right, exactly. And I mean, so as we talk about this, I mean, we're talking about governments going crazy. Okay, sounds like politics, and we usually try and sometimes fail to stay away from it. But you don't have to be political to recognize that it is a primary reason why many people are looking to leave the borders.
Yeah.
And that is a fact in the United States, and it is a fact throughout Europe. So that's what we try to do. We're not trying to push people out of their home if they don't want to go. I mean, stay where you are if you like. But if you want to leave, we would like to give you some good information about how you might be able to make that happen for yourself. So we had some questions today. You threw it out on the Facebook page.
Yep.
And what?
Well, let's start with, I got with one here. And it's from Jamie Marie Kuntz. I hope I pronounced that right. And she's been quite active on the group there, and we've been kind of messaging back and forth. She sent me this question here. She says she's planning on doing some solo travel to San Miguel de Allende, to Tulum, Granada, and she does not speak Spanish. So this is her question. How important is it to be fluent in Spanish in each of these cities, and what's the best way to acquire a basic level of fluency if I don't have a lot of time in my day for taking a language course?
Well, we can say for sure. Where were the places she was going?
Here, San Miguel de Allende,
Right.
Tulum, and Granada.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about San Miguel de Allende, and you can talk about the other ones. You've been to both Granada and have you been to Tulum?
I have not been to either, actually.
Yeah, I want to check it out. It sounds great.
Yeah.
But San Miguel de Allende is, I mean, what they say here, it's a popular saying here that it's maybe the worst place in Mexico to learn Spanish because so many people speak English here. My Spanish continues to get better and better. Every couple of weeks it seems like I make a jump. But there are plenty of people here who speak little to no Spanish. So it's very easy. Most of the people here, certainly if, they're work at a restaurant or something like that, you're going to be fine. And it's so loaded with expats that if you run into some type of problem, you can always grab, there's one right around the corner from you. So no issue there. We would encourage you to learn Spanish to the best of your ability if you choose to come here, but you're not going to be limited at all. Now,
right.
Tulum, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know either, and I don't know about Granada. I've never been there, but I've heard that that's got a lot of expats and stuff there. I would imagine that you can get around without speaking a whole lot of Spanish. But yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to just learn the basics. That doesn't take long. Even on a plane ride over, you can get a Spanish book or something like that and learn the basics of how to get around. Just learn some basic phrases. What I always recommend to people, and it probably gets old by now, but what I think is the best tool is Duolingo.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
And so Duolingo is a site, and it's also an application, and it's the fastest growing application, period, right now. It's just going nuts, and it has been for the last few years. It's very interesting. I when I was in Guatemala, was that about a month ago, there was a speech, he wasn't there. This guy, Luis Van An, okay? And he is the founder of Duolingo. This guy is amazing. I didn't know about him. I'd been very familiar with Duolingo, and I always recommend it to people. But the founder is an amazing guy. He started a company in his 20s, sold it to Google for the undisclosed amount, somewhere between 1 million and 100 million, he says. So you don't know. Okay. But somewhere in there. Anyways, when he was 30. And he felt like he wanted to do something to change the world. So he said, one big thing that kind of bothered him was the big education gap. And he felt that caused a lot of problems in society, that, some people got very good educations and other people didn't. And he felt like all the tools are there with information technology in order to provide it for free for everyone. So, why don't we start doing this? So he started with languages. So he developed this Duolingo. And you'll notice it's all for free.
Right.
Although it's a profitable company because they sell the translations to publishing companies, newspapers. So part of the thing is, as you're learning a language, they gamify it. So it's kind of a game. They keep coming back to you. And if you go away from it too long, they'll send you an email. And they have it. You get points. You can compete against your friends. And part of it is that you translate a document. okay, at the end of each lesson. And then you have several people to translate this document, and then it comes together in one translation. And they sell this to publishing companies, and it's pretty accurate.
That's great.
Yeah. So he's found a way to make a free service for people, free way for people to learn while it's still a profitable company. And it's pretty amazing. And while I was there, a lot of people don't know that there's this thing called internet.org. And it's actually being funded by Facebook, and it is going into all these developing countries. And what it is it's free internet for basic services. So you get like emergency services, you get all kinds of learning services and stuff like that. It's all throughout India, in much of Central America, South America, and it's free. What that means is that they've hooked up with the telecommunications companies where you don't even need a data plan in order to get these services on your phone. So you just need some sort of a smartphone that can download an app, and you can have all these services for free.
I see.
And so they signed an agreement with Duolingo where everyone will get Duolingo access for free. So now all you need is a smartphone, and you can learn any language for free.
So it's coming from the cell phone tower, but we're not talking about actual internet here, or are we?
Well, yeah. So it doesn't allow you to access the entire internet.
Oh, I see.
But there are certain things in certain areas that it allows you to access.
Oh, it's kind of like North Korea. That sounds cool. No,
but it's free. But so you can always pay and get more. But so they're doing this to the whole world, you know. So it's very interesting.
Very cool. Yeah. Duolingo. Somebody told me about it. In fact, it might have been Tour when I was in Chile a couple of years ago, and I was using it and liked it, but I've gotten away from it for a long time. Maybe I should go back to it. Google bought this?
No. He had another company before that.
Another company. Oh, yeah. I see. Gotcha. But I just recently decided, doggone it, I am going to knuckle down here and improve my Spanish. So I signed up for this Babble, which I believe also started out as a translation website, and now they've got all sorts of language courses. So I went ahead and signed up for 6 months, so I get to use all of their courses for 6 months, and I'm already maybe 15 lessons deep.
That's a paid service?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. I don't remember how much I spent. I never remember. Maybe it was, I don't know, $50 or $60 or something for like 6 months worth of as many lessons as I want to take. So that's important to me to improve my Spanish, so I'm finally doing it. But anyway, so I don't know about our guest. What is her name, or our listener? Jamie, right. I guess you'd have to find people probably in Tulum, because it's a growing place for people to go as tourists and stuff like that. I have to imagine you're going to do fine there, but Granada, I have no idea.
Yeah, and you know what? You can also look at it as a challenge. You know, start learning some basic Spanish on the way over here, and maybe take some classes. You know, there's plenty of classes that you can take here in San Miguel that could be part of your trip. You know, come down, and it's a good way to meet people and other travelers and people that come through. So just take it like that, I would say. It
sounds like a good idea. Jamie, come on down. There's lots of people here who will speak English to you, and you'll have all the help you need learning Spanish. All right, what else do we have?
Let's see.
Well, we've got this one from Callan. You want to talk about that? So we were just talking about Callan Diggs. He said he was moving to the vicinity here. I thought he had said in June, something like that. But he's concerned. He says, Doug Casey recently interviewed a subscriber about going to jail for bringing gold coins into the country. So he wants to talk about being safe about this. And he said, what would you suggest for a person who plans to bring either 10 silver or gold coins in the country, whether via land or through an airport? Should they sell it in the States and buy it again in Mexico? Or will it be no problem since it's a rather small amount? So what would you say to that?
Oh, that's no problem. I mean, 10 silver coins is nothing. So I've taken gold, silver all over into different countries by land, by air, by bus. And that amount does not matter.
Right.
I think that the people that do run into problems, I believe that farther down that thread, they were talking about somebody that ran into problems, but what was it, like 100 ounces of gold or something?
This was, I thought, ridiculous. Yeah. I would think that if a person owned 150 1-ounce gold coins, that would, unless they inherited it from someone, that they would know that you could not travel with that. I mean, technically the rule in the U.S. is $10,000. And I think it varies slightly, but it's pretty much $10,000.
Exactly.
That's way more than $10,000 worth of gold. And it was silly. And I loved the interviewee who is talking to him, Doug Casey's site, David Galland, his name is. He's saying, how are you? You know, the guy finally got out of jail. And he's like, the first concern that I had was, how are you now? Are you doing okay? And the second one was, what the heck were you doing bringing 150 gold coins through Mexico or anywhere, So it sounded like the guy's thought was that it had to do with face value. And I've heard other people use that before, but that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Because the face value of a gold coin is usually like $20, right? Well, we all know that a 1 ounce gold coin now is worth what, $1,300, $1,400 or something like that. So come on. I mean, you wouldn't want to travel with more than 5 or 6 of those to be safe, if that, But the thing that I had said is last year I traveled with 50 1 ounce silver coins. Now that was a little under $1,000, I think, at the time. And I had a little bit of gold. So it was well under, it was maybe $2,000 worth total. And I wasn't worried about that. It was in my laptop bag. Nobody even looked at it. Nobody said a word about it.
Yeah, I have normally traveled with right around $10,000. I've traveled a lot with right around $10,000 in gold. I used to have this ingot that was 3.5 ounces. Right. Recently sold that. But, anyways, I've never had any problems, any questions whatsoever. And, I'd also like to say that even if it is over that $10,000 mark, that doesn't mean it's illegal to travel with. All that means is you need to report it.
Right.
So you just say, yeah, well, I had it here, I had it, and I did it. And that just means, so even if it's over 10,000, it doesn't matter.
Very interesting.
It's not illegal to travel with gold.
And yet, that guy went to jail.
I don't know what happened with that, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. But
he didn't fill out any form for it.
Maybe they thought he was trying to smuggle it,
right.
Or you do. Oh, because he probably didn't disclose it.
Maybe
that's the thing. Yeah, if you have $30,000 in gold, then it's not illegal to do, but you do need to disclose it. And you just say, my dad gave it to me, and I'm moving to Mexico. And
no way in hell am I going to travel with that much in gold, because without reference to the laws, some MFers are going to shake you down for that. I'm just not going to take that much.
Absolutely. And they have different laws and different things in different countries. So, you want to stay away from that. I would say if you have a whole lot, take a little each time or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
much smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Diane Kennedy commented quite a bit on this thread, former Borderless podcast guest, very helpful CPA. Seems like she handles a lot of stuff for people who are in real estate and also strategy. She's a former Rich Dad partner. She said she doesn't know if it's true or not, but the border guys told us once that checks also counted in the $10,000. They were living in Baja California, and her son was driving some mail up to post from San Diego. The border went through everything that looked like it might contain a check. So I'm assuming like checks made out for a certain amount. I never heard anybody say anything like that before, but that's interesting. And then she also said her 2 cents about bringing things into Mexico. Always have the regulations printed out with you. The guys aren't always well trained.
Right.
If I was bringing gold in, I'd bring a fairly current printout showing the value. There is something about having it in writing that makes the Mexican border guys happy. In fact, she talks about having her CPA license card once, and she put her finger over what it actually said and showed it to the guard. He wanted to give me an ambassador pass. Laugh out loud. Anyway, it was very helpful for seeing that in black and white. And I know when I was traveling with my medals, I had the receipts for them right in my wallet so that I would be able to show them in case they had any questions about it.
Yeah, well, she would know. I know she travels a lot to Mexico, so that's probably good advice.
Let's take a moment here to talk about our sponsor today. Yes, today's Borderless podcast is brought to you by the Condescending Group, your online leader in promoting moral superiority. Well, there's no beating around the bush. It looks like the Condescending Group's big project, Guevara's Gulch, a housing development nestled in lovely downtown Caracas, Venezuela, is really falling apart now. It all began with the intent of creating a collectivist paradise in which like-minded people would live, laugh, and share their lives in the comforting shadows of an enormous, all-powerful government, a crumbling yet quaint infrastructure, and fun group scavenger hunts to find food, any food at all. As far as we can tell, the trouble really began with the hiring of a scruffy little nut job named Ben Flonson to spearhead Guevara's Gulch. What at first seemed like a scrappy, can-do spirit turned out to be an old-fashioned combination of compulsive lying, sociopathic shenanigans, and wild-eyed megalomania. It bothered us in the beginning when Flonson was reported to have been slapping the occasional Guevara's Gulch helper comrade, but honestly, that was just nothing compared to the eventual descent into brutal thumb-screwing for the slightest offenses, forcing the female helpers to go naked, and old-school Roman rope torture. Although 11 people did invest in Guevara's Gulch, we're sorry to say they are all now dead. It seems Flanson was outraged the investors were disillusioned and holding a meeting to talk about it. There are no eyewitnesses, but the 11 bodies were found riddled by bullets and covered in dog poop. Ben Flanson was last seen making his way into the Venezuelan jungle with his elderly dog, a Beretta M12 submachine gun, and a canvas duffel bag of cash. Anyone knowing his whereabouts, the whereabouts of Ben Flanson, is encouraged to approach him in a spirit of mildness. Really just listen to his point of view and try to understand and reason with him. The condescending group, they care more than you. So anyway, I certainly hope that things iron themselves out there in Venezuela. It sounds like a really harrowing, nightmarish experience.
Absolutely, yeah. That sounds very interesting.
Right. But, it
rings a bell like something. I don't know.
It might. Yeah. But anyway, we're sure everyone had the best of intentions. It's just sometimes little psychopaths work their way in there and shit like that happens.
A lot.
So anyway, we are back to the Borderless podcast. As a matter of fact, we had a question on our Facebook page today. We asked people for stuff to talk about, and Diane Kennedy, the past Borderless podcast guest, she said, my question would be, why San Miguel de Allende? What was your criteria in finding the right spot for you out of the U.S.? So why don't we talk about that? Why don't you go for it, James?
Okay, well, yeah, when I first came here, I was coming from Acapulco, and it was a really crazy time for me. And, it was a lot of partying and just kind of, I don't know how to really explain it. But anyways, I wanted to get away from that. I wanted something, more based in reality and down to earth. So, I came here, I visited Jim Carger. If anybody's interested in a more elaborate explanation, I have a blog post that I wrote about this. It's called My Secrets of Success in San Miguel de Allende, where I talk about exactly why I moved here and how and all that. But I came here and, I was just blown away at the, it reminded me very much of Spain, kind of European, the great streets and all the fresh food I loved. It has a very good community of people, that I've in the last year or two, I've gotten to know pretty much everybody. So I think I know a lot of people that are good to know around town, and it's kind of central and it's great weather. So yeah, I think all of those things combined kind of helped me make that decision.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, and you interviewed me on your Borderless blog also.
Yeah.
And I talked about my move here. So she wants to know why San Miguel de Allende. So I'll tell you. First of all, what my interest was, a really important part of it is I wanted to lower my taxation. Mm-hmm. And so there is this thing, we talk about sometimes called the, federal income tax exclusion for foreign residents. And so, basically in 2015, you can make up to $100,800 and not pay any income tax on earned income. That doesn't have to do with other types of income, and you can figure out what that is. The other thing was I wanted to move to a place where I could be freer. So that some people might be puzzled at that, because a case could be made that Mexico is not freer than the United States. And yet the opposite case could also be made. Could I save money by moving here? The answer is yes. I have determined, now it depends on where you're coming from. If you are coming from the United States, if you are coming from New York City, or if you're coming from Marin County in California or something like that, I would venture to say that you are going to save at least half, at least, and maybe more. I was coming from the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I would say that I save a third living here. Okay. Now, real estate is a little more expensive here than you probably think it is. Renting is not. You can have very nice low rentals here, and you can find houses too. And that is certainly my plan is to buy some real estate here. Weather, warm but non-humid. This was a key thing when I began looking around the world. This is one of the primary reasons why I didn't go to Asia. Okay, because it seems like every place you hear about there is super, super humid. So central Chile, I went and checked that out, and I came to San Miguel de Allende. It's really great weather here. Would I need to learn a new language? Well, not like I ever spoke great Spanish, or I even do now, but I speak a little Spanish, and I prefer to improve my Spanish than learn a new language. But the other thing about it is just such a beautiful, amazing town. You feel transported. You feel like you're in old world Europe. It's not a big town. The population here is something like 100,000 or something like that in San Miguel. About 10% of us are expats. And it's not only I mean, the church here looks like something out of a Disney movie or something. It's nothing like you've ever seen. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's amazing. Yep.
And there's this jardin with these beautifully manicured laurel trees that I saw them cutting yesterday. I mean, they make them perfect. Mm-hmm. And people just hang out, sit there. There's street musicians everywhere. And because there's such a high expat population here, there's amazing restaurants, bars, little art galleries, and just cool places everywhere. So it's a beautiful place to live.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I remember was it last week when we were talking with Amy Scott, mm-hmm. and we were talking about the amount of expats here and whether that's a good or a bad thing.
Right.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I got out of the United States because I wanted to get away from freaking Americans."
Yeah.
But and that could be true, but also there's a lot of pros. Like what was she saying, that she had this great massage and a lot of, I don't know.
She liked being able to get, there's some things, I can't remember exactly what it was. And so there are some advantages. So if what you're looking to do, is move, to a very, very remote place, maybe this isn't the place for you. And yet at the same time, it seems like, especially you go on the civil list and you've got a bunch of Americans wanting to all posture and act like they're more Mexican than the next American or something like that. I don't know. Look, I really, really enjoy the culture here. There are some frustrating things, you know. I mean, the cable company does not come out when they say they're going to come out.
Right.
And because it's a kind of it's a culture in which people don't really confront you. They're nice.
Yeah.
Most people here are very, very nice, I think, from an American perspective. But as a result, unfortunately, I have to go renew my residency. Okay, I've got my card is going to be coming up here. So my girlfriend Cecilia, who is Mexican, says, "Oh, the best thing to do is go down to immigration and wait in line and take a number and then find out what we need and then go back." And I'm like, "What? I'm not going to do that. Let's get him on the phone." But here's the thing. She's absolutely right. Because what happens when you get them on the phone? They just shoot from the hip. They say whatever shit that falls out of their mouth on the phone. Then you get there and it's wrong. 80% of the time. So, she was ultimately right.
Right.
You go down there, you get somebody who knows what they're talking about. They give you a nice list and you ask them questions. You get what you need to do. So I think my theory is because the Mexican culture is not very confrontational. A person doesn't hesitate to just say whatever to you because they're only pleasing you in the moment, thinking, well, you're never going to come back and come down my throat for being wrong. In the U.S., we say, hello, you told me this, and this is what happened. So we're a little more hesitant to do that.
Right.
But anyway, there are some funny little aspects of living here. But you know what? All told, I love it here much more.
Yeah, I like it a lot here as well. And I think it's a good one. Thing that I usually say is that it's a good kind of stepping stone for people. If like Jamie was saying that she didn't speak Spanish. Other people that maybe they're not ready to go out in Nicaragua or Brazil or something, or out in Asia. Well, here it is kind of more or less Americanized, and so it's a good way to kind of take your first step out there. And then if you want to go to some other places, you can. And I've actually set up something to help people that are interested in coming down here, in this type of circumstance where maybe they don't know how to get around. There's a lot of people that are not used to doing this type of thing. A lot of times I'll go to a new area and it doesn't really matter. But, a lot of people, they have more at stake and they can't necessarily do that. So, within the last 2.5 years that I've been here, I've gotten to know a lot of people. So I offer a concierge service. And so what I do is I help people to find accommodation. I get discounted hotels and things like that. I do English to Spanish translation. I transport them to and from the airport. I help them find a long-term rental or introduce them to one of the top real estate agents in the country, who's a very good friend of mine, at Coldwell Banker. And take them out to the Gruta, the great hot springs that I went to a couple days ago. I love doing that. They have very natural, great hot springs here. That's just wonderful. Also, introduction to a private English-speaking physician and dentist. Introduction to a bank manager that can get them to open a bank account during their visit. An hour-long consultation with a Mexican business and immigration attorney. And also introduction to an accountant that works with Americans that move down here to Mexico. And also bring them out, to the different restaurants and bars. And I know the managers, so I introduce them and stuff like that. And just kind of hang out with them for like 4 or 5 days, as much as they want me to. So.
You'll even let them buy you dinner and drinks.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I'd be happy to do that. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that, I also offer that if there's anybody that if they know that would like to do something like that. So.
What are we talking about next, James?
Well, I did find this article that I thought the listeners might enjoy. Is the 10 best paying jobs you can do at home.
Okay.
It was in Lifehacker, and I don't know, maybe some of you guys have seen this article, but I apologize if you have, but I thought we'd talk about this because I thought it had some good suggestions. So the number one suggestion is a translator. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know a lot of people do this. I actually worked for a translation company. It was one of the first real jobs I had when I was in high school. And there's several different things you can do with translator. You can be an actual translator or you can be a proofreader. Mm-hmm. Normally what people do when they first start, in order to start being a translator, is you need to be certified. They do have a board. I forget the name of it now, but you just have to go through some tests. And you can become a translator, and depending on what your expertise is, you can become a very high-paid translator. They can get up to like 25 cents per word if it's medical translations, some sort of technical, maybe architectural translations, things like that. So that's a good way of making a living, and it doesn't. We used to have translators living all over the world, and it really doesn't matter.
Very cool.
So. That's one option. And it says average salary $132,000 a year.
Wow.
Yep.
No kidding?
Mm-hmm.
Translators?
Yep.
Wow.
That's what it says. So let's see. Number 2 is voice actor.
Really?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's what it says. Average salary here, $75,000. And it says, here's what it says for voice actor. It says, all voice actors provide voiceovers, but the purpose for voice acting varies a lot. You can do freelance voice acting for audio books, automation works, games, websites, videos, and more. Voice acting is fun work to do and pays plenty. However, you may need to condition and train your voice. Voice acting is just like acting. You might have difficulty finding work as different businesses tend to search for a specific kind of voice only, and altering your voice is a pretty difficult thing to do.
I got to give this person credit for trying to write something like this. As you know, I just started a website called howtobeavoicetalent.com. And I really tried to address the subject of salary, what voice talent. It's very difficult to find this kind of thing out. And I did the best job I could to determine what people are making. It's very difficult because most people who are voice talent don't do much work like this. They might make under $15,000 a year, but there's some people making millions. They have here an average salary of $75,000. I don't know where they get that. I don't know how to determine that, but it's fun. I'm glad that they tried to put this out here. Anybody interested in becoming a voice talent, voice actor, they call it different things. Check out my website, howtobeavoicetalent.com. Anyway, what's up next?
Okay. Then you have statistical analysis. I have an analyst. I'm sorry. I don't know anybody.
Analyst.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Analyst?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Forgive me.
So anyways, we'll read this. I actually don't know anybody who's done this. Well, I do have a friend that does kind of a combination between this and he's a programmer. And he gets information from all kinds of like violent incidents in right now he's working in Northern Africa with a lot of these terrorist groups and stuff like that, and he puts together these maps. So that's kind of what he does. But anyways, it says average salary is $69,000 a year. As a statistical analyst, you have to interpret the quantitative data and also design statistical models for research problems. Maintaining databases and ensuring validity of data is also required in most of those cases. Statistical analysis is a very broad field, and you should work towards specializing in particular types of data. It will add great value if you're specializing in marketing, health, economics, and engineering data. This kind of work requires proper training, and in many cases, the employers require you to have formal college training as well. Certification of statistical training is asked for in almost all cases. So There you go. That's that one.
Next one is interesting to me. It's called infographic designer. What's the difference between a graphic designer and an infographic designer? Do you know?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I suppose a graphic designer could be an infographic designer. You just design it yourself. I've seen a lot of these jobs come up, in places like Fiverr and other. You can go online and get an infographic made for you. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I guess that would be. You'd have to really be familiar with Adobe Acrobat, Illustrator, things like that. So
cool. All right. Well, there you go.
Average salary, $76,000 a year. So that would probably, if you know how to design infographics and you're a graphic designer, then that's an option for you. Number 5 is a software engineer with an average salary of $94,000. Now, this one I would, it's probably gonna take a lot of expertise,
right?
In the beginning in order to be designing software. I don't know anybody that can just learn how to be a software engineer, very quickly. But yeah, I'm sure that once you know how to do that, then you could have plenty of work while you're traveling. Okay, number 6. I've known several people to do this. Is a travel agent.
Yeah, this surprises the hell out of me. I thought that career option was kind of dead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose you could still make it work. Maybe some sort of a concierge thing as well. I know other people that get certified as travel agents also do it just because you get discounts. In a lot of things, you get discounts in airplanes and hotels, and all you have to say is you're a travel agent, and it's kind of like a global group that they let you in at a discounted rate.
Well, it's just, I guess what we're saying is like Travelocity, Orbitz, all of these different sites, there's a million of them out there now. It seems that fewer and fewer people are using travel agents, but if you read what it says, it seems like the role of travel agent has been expanded to just arranging your trip. It's saying as a freelance travel agent, you're involved in things like providing information to visitors, driving traffic to a client's website, making arrangements for visitors. So it's going well beyond simply booking their trip, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, number 7 is financial manager. And it says average salary $103,000.
All right.
I don't know how easy that is anymore. I think a lot of people are kind of suspicious of just the person that, to give somebody all your,
sure.
to be your financial manager. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I would assume that this is somebody, if you're a financial manager, you don't just, throw out a website and say I'm a financial manager.
Right.
Not that would prevent somebody from doing something like that. But, I imagine it's somebody who's been doing it for a long time. It's just like me. There aren't a lot of people who just fling out a shingle and they're doing voice talent. I've been doing it all my life.
Right.
And so these financial managers have probably been doing it all their life. They've cultivated a clientele who trust them. And so they decide, hey, I can do this from anywhere. How about if I leave, my country and go live in some cool place?
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. When I first kind of got out of college, that's what I wanted to do. That's why I went and worked for Peter Schiff's bank in the Caribbean. I thought that it would be a cool job to, be a financial manager for people to help them, with their money. Because sometimes I don't realize a lot of people have no idea what to do with their money. They know how to make money, but they have no idea what to do with it once it's there. I think as a financial manager, it's very tough, and I would say that people need to really look at who they choose, pretty closely, because, a lot of people that are labeled as kind of financial managers, they're paid to put you in certain funds. They're paid to sell you certain stocks. Trust me, I know. That's what they do. Right. And it's not necessarily good for you. Well, the thing is, what I think is really best for people is to be very diversified. And it's going to be hard for a financial manager who can set you up with a real estate deal in Colombia and then help you get gold in Switzerland and then, help you invest in a business in Silicon Valley. Right. These are very different things that you need to kind of have control over yourself. And it's tough, but I don't know. Maybe that would be something that someone can get into. But anyways, that's something that you can definitely do on the road. Right. Number 8 is one that we've had a lot of people on the podcast, and that's writer. Right. This is seeming to expand a lot lately with all the self-publishing and information products. Right. This is a lower average salary. This one has $52,000. But I would imagine that's a very kind of low borders to entry type of thing.
This is wide open. It's just like voice talent. They don't know what the average writer really makes. They're not in a position to find this out. They're trying to do the best job they can. But you could do all sorts of writing, like, the people we've had on with information products. Well, like Amy Scott we had on recently, she's kind of an editor. She goes over, the things that people are, there's all sorts of things that you could do as a writer. And I'm sure many of them make a lot more than that. But, you could certainly do just fine here in San Miguel de Allende making $52,000 a year.
Yeah, that's true. So anyways, speaking of that, I know we had this conversation with another friend of mine where he was saying that, most people that sell, they're self-published authors, they make $500 a year, I believe was the thing. And I think that that's probably true. But the thing is, probably 90% of those people, so it's 50% of people that are self-published make $500 a year. But I think that, in the world before, the ease into self-publishing, 90% of those people wouldn't have a book at all.
Right.
Period. So
exactly.
It's kind of a skewed statistic.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that also just running in blindly thinking you're going to make a lot of money, as a self-published author is not a good idea either. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in that area. And it's definitely something you could do while traveling, so. Sure. Okay. And then we got number 9, graphic designer, which also has an average salary of $52,000. Plenty of people do this. I know some people that do that. I know basics of graphic design, but I definitely believe in paying somebody else, good money to do a good one, because it really makes a difference when you have a good looking logo and good ads and stuff like that. So, yeah. And then the last one here is an animator.
Right.
That's, to me, is just so, I mean, it's like magic. Yes. I think it's awesome. I think it's very cool to be able to do a animated video. I have absolutely no idea how to do that.
Well, I do lots of voiceovers for these animation projects. Yeah. They call them whiteboard projects, or they call them, they have a number of different, somebody the other day asked me to do a video for a Scribbler video, But, anyway, so they're magnificent, and I do so many corporate video voiceovers today. I mean, just everybody is doing them. I think years ago, people used to have to shell out a lot of money, and now the fact that people are doing it in their homes throughout the world, the cost has come down to do some really good work.
Yeah, I think I don't know how you get started in that. I think that was it Antonio, Cecilia's son that's what he's studying.
Yeah.
He told me a little bit about that. So I guess, they have programs in school, and he's in high school, right? So even in high school, they're learning to do that as a career. So that's good.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't know if,
so the 10 best paying jobs you can do at home. So there are some ideas. That was a good idea, because that's what it seems like it comes down to, when you think about what we talk about, people who are interested in moving past their borders would like to, but they'd like to have a location-independent business. Yeah. And there are just so many options today, so that's one really good positive thing about the time that we live in. Yeah,
that's the first step. There's a lot of different people helping others in kind of internationalizing themselves, and the first step is to have some money and to have location-independent income, whether it's rental properties or some sort of websites, or you do work online or work for somebody remotely. There's lots of different ways to do it, or maybe you inherited a bunch of money.
Right.
I don't know, but that's kind of the first step. Once you have money, and there's a lot of people that are older and then are then looking and moving. How do I move all this huge amount, this huge amount of money that I have and stuff like that? And that's kind of a different question, but also relevant. But that seems to be a lot of the questions that people ask is, how do I make some money? This sounds great, but I need to make money doing it.
Yes,
so
yes.
I understand.
I've met lots of them in the last few years. So yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that we would like to do today, there was a flurry of activity on our Facebook page, and we really appreciate that. So we'd love for you to start conversations with us. One of the things that we were talking about was Colombia. My girlfriend Cecilia and I were talking about next year. We've got a lot of plans this year. We're actually going to be going to LA next month for a week. And, we've got some other things we want to do. I really haven't investigated Mexico very thoroughly, but next year we want to investigate South America a little bit. And we had originally talked about Uruguay and Argentina a little bit. But now we're thinking about Colombia. It just seems like a really exciting option. I keep hearing these great things about it.
For sure, yeah.
So we had, we brought that up. Somebody today who I think also was in Ireland, right?
Somebody's going there. There's a guy from Ireland that's going
to Colombia.
Yeah.
Right. And so other guys came in there, and I haven't even had time to read all of this, but it sounds really great. So if you are interested in Colombia, go there and check that out. Also, if you have some more information about somebody maybe we could have on the podcast, we might have this guy that we just found here, but somebody else who's used to fielding the common questions about things like taxation, about things like residency, citizenship, cost of living, cost of housing, things like that. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a program on Colombia. A lot of people have been talking about that lately. One opportunity that I know I've heard some people talk about also in Medellin specifically is this medicinal marijuana oil. So what they're saying is that as they legalize, medicinal marijuana, it's not like the future. This is going to be doctors prescribing people to go home and smoke a joint. Mm-hmm. Rather, what they're going to do is they're going to prescribe them oil that you can put in a glass of water or put in a piece of bread or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the places that's really set up to take advantage of this is Medellin, Colombia. They already have these types of things set up. The laws are very conducive to this. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are saying that that's where there's going to be a big boom in, cannabis oil out of Medellin, Colombia. So I think that's something that's very interesting. I'd like to check out as well.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah. So Colombia is what I'm interested in. I've spent some time in Chile. Uruguay is interesting. It's looking like the real estate there is more expensive than we thought it was. And that's one of the things that was exciting to us, is that there might be something in Colombia. From what I heard, like you say, Medellin, right? Sounds like a really great place to get in during this time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are still, they think that Colombia is some, mafia-ridden war zone. Yeah. And that's funny, is that was like the 70s. Yeah, Pablo Escobar got killed at the end of the 70s. And so that's... anyways, but that can be looked as a good thing, because it seems like it's very beautiful and everybody still has this idea that it's bad. So that means that it's a great time to go in and buy some property,
Good point. Yeah. Excellent point. So where are you thinking about going to, James? Where would you like to go? Your top 3 choices, outside of, Mexico and the States, of course. Where would you like to check out?
It's funny you bring up Colombia. I've mentioned a few times in the podcast. I think that I've had plans to go down there as one of the next few places. Also, Mexico. There's so many places in Mexico. I don't know if people realize it's just such a diverse and huge country. These places like Tulum and out there in Quintana Roo and all out there, and Playa del Carmen I haven't been to. So lots of places, and I have been trying to do it little by little. I'd like to do that. And, my original idea was to go all through, because I went through all through Europe during college, and then I wanted to go through Central America and South America. But I like to take my time, kind of learn places and do business in different areas. And I definitely want to get out to Asia eventually.
Right.
So I don't know how long it'll take me to do that, but there's lots to see here in South America, in Latin America, and then go all the way down to Central and South America. And eventually I'd like to get out there. All these exciting places out in Asia sound great.
I mentioned that earlier. For me, it's like Europe sounds absolutely fascinating and just great, but it just doesn't, for me, I cannot... Moving from the U.S. or anywhere to Europe is like moving from Europe to the U.S. or moving from California to New York or something like that. By the way, speaking of Colombia, Glenn Roberts, friend of the Borderless podcast, who we had on before, the stateless man who renounced his citizenship, about Colombia, he wants us to know, I got married and divorced in Colombia. Oh. So I don't know what he means by that, but, maybe it's a good place to get married and a good place to get divorced.
They say it's better to have love and lost, all right?
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we hope he loved very well for the short period of time that he was married. Okay, so what else do we got, James?
I think that's it.
I think that's it, too. Yeah. So anyway, folks, thank you for commenting more on the Facebook page. And if you haven't already, the way that you get on there is you go to borderlesspodcast.com, you click on the Join Now button. That will get you access to the Facebook page, and, ask us questions. Not that we always know the answers, but we'll find them out for you. And together, like James says, as part of the network, we can all be enriched by that. So, go to borderlesspodcast.com, click on the Join Now button. And there's also a couple of other things that they get for doing that.
Yeah. Right? So you can go there, and, I've actually changed the button. Okay. It is now, I got a ebook that it sends out, so it just says instant access, and that brings an ebook. It'll give you access to the Facebook group that we've been talking about, And also you get updates. You know, I send out news updates with things that affect, digital nomads and people like that. So keep up with what we're doing here. And yeah, really appreciate it. So, it's good talking to everybody, and have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Another Borderless podcast coming up soon.
Thanks for joining us for the Borderless Podcast, traveling, investing, and living beyond borders.